Okay, good evening, everyone, and welcome. I know many of you, but I'm John Oxendorf. I have the great privilege of being the founding director of the Morningside Academy for Design, where we are trying to bring together designers and elevate creativity across our community and much more broadly than MIT. We have a very exciting evening tonight. We are going to do something we do every spring, which is we're going to announce our new MAD fellowships, Morningside Academy for Design fellowships, and these bring together and support some of the most creative grad students from all across campus. And it's a really challenging and competitive process to get us down to about 10 fellows every year. We get about 100 applications, and we always say if you applied and didn't get it, apply again, because we really, really love to support graduate students across all of campus. And so we're really thrilled to be able to announce these new MAD Fellows this year. And throughout the coming year, we'll be together in dialogue. We'll be learning together. We'll be learning from each other. And what happens in that seminar each year, and I'm looking at a few of our former fellows in the room and current, is we all expand our definitions of design and of the importance of our work, and we really learn from each other, and that's been incredibly exciting and enriching for our MAD team. We're also doing something totally new tonight. We're announcing 3 new chaired professorships, which was part of our founding agreement with support from the Morningside Foundation. And although we're only a couple of years old, we've taken our time to launch these chairs and to try to do them all at once, to, just like we're doing with the fellowships, really create an impact by creating community among faculty. So we're going to announce those 3 chairs. And these are 3 people I really admire and I'm constantly learning from. So it's really a privilege to be able to recognize them. And before we kick things off, though, I have a really important set of thank yous for our team. We are lean and mean as a team. We try to do a lot with small resources, and many of you know members of our team, but I just want to call them out and thank them in particular. So our Associate Director for Administration, Marion Cunningham, is here. Marion, thank you for everything you do for MAD. You're amazing. Fellows, current fellows, and former fellows know that. And then we're also joined by Adelaide Zollinger, who basically launched and runs our website, design.mit.edu, and runs our Instagram and social media accounts that really celebrate design at MIT. And it seems like she has a story on the MIT homepage just about every week. And new spotlights, short videos on design at MIT, so check those out. Subscribe if you haven't seen them already. So round of applause for Adelaide. And we've also added a superpower this year, a colleague who's come from the Office of the Arts after a decade to help us really think about academics and how we expand academics. And she's really helping us to think and develop and continue to promote not only our undergrad offerings, but also our graduate offerings and our offerings for the whole community. And that's Catherine Higgins. So Catherine, it's great to have you here. And there are many other members of the team, Allison, Jen, Roy, so just a round of applause for the whole MAD team, please. Thank you, guys. And, you know, for those of you who know me, I feel very strongly that, well, I should just say I'm a lifelong bad soccer player. And everything I do feels like a team sport, and so what we try to do is really work together as a team, which we've been able to do, but we absolutely couldn't do this without the person who's really helped me from the very beginning of this, and that is my colleague Maria Yang from Mechanical Engineering, who's also Deputy Dean of Engineering, which is almost the best title ever, Deputy Dean. And but for MAD, she's Associate Director for MAD, and we're just side by side almost every day. I honestly don't know where you find the time, but Maria's going to help us kick things off with introducing our 3 faculty members and then helping to moderate a conversation. So please join me in welcoming Professor Maria Yang.
Oh, sorry. Yes, thanks, John. I think this is working. That's so nice. Okay, so in a moment, we're going to hear from our 3 fantastic faculty members and about their thoughts on design education and the future of design at MIT. And the way we're going to do this is I will be introducing our first speaker, which will be David Wallace. And then we're going to have Nicholas DeMonchaux, who's the department head for architecture, introduce Skylar Tibbits. And then we'll have Kent Larson, who's the director of city science at the Media Lab, introduce Behnaz Farahi. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce David. Are you ready? So, no. So it's my great pleasure to introduce David Wallace. He is in the Department of Mechanical Engineering. And a lot of times when you think of engineering and design, you think cars or consumer products, which is of course what it involves. But David really thinks about how we innovate and create new kinds of products that are sort of game changers. And he also thinks about how we can design these better. What's the process that's involved? And also how we can best teach students to be these innovators. That's really kind of how he operates. And you might know, you might sort of know him as the driving force for these absolutely iconic classes at MIT, including 2009, the capstone MacVicar class. Has anyone taken that class here? Yes, lots of hands, lots of excitement. And then also 2000B, toy product design, right? These are his signature classes. These are hands-on, team-based classes where students work together, they build, and they think about how they can really change the story and the narrative on design, using engineering design to come up with things that will satisfy needs in sort of a whole new way. And some examples of these are a system to help firefighters more safely navigate the dangerous terrain of a smoke-filled building, and a device that's sort of unobtrusive, makes you feel like a regular person, but can help Parkinson's patients sort of manage their tremors so they can operate more day to day. That's really how he thinks. David, not surprisingly, has won, I think, every single teaching award at MIT, including the MacVicar Award, which is the MIT's highest teaching honor. And he is, if you ever talk to him, he's constantly thinking about what are the next things you can do for design teaching and education at MIT. He always thinks about the future. So with that, I'd like to invite David to speak.
Thank you. Okay, so hello everybody, and thanks for the intro, and thank you everyone else for coming out. And so I've been asked to spend a few minutes talking about design in the future. I generalized it beyond MIT. And design education. So I kind of thought, all right, I know. Here's my answer. There you go. And I'd like to say, I actually don't really know what it will be. But, and I kind of hope that, but I also hope it's going to surprise me, it's going to challenge me, and it's going to help all of us be better. And that said, future of design education, I am going to offer some thoughts with the caveat that I just made all of this up last night, and I'd probably do something slightly different tomorrow. So, Anyhow, let's go back in time. It's 1982, and I found this was some stuff that I hadn't looked at for about 40 years. And so I was in first year industrial design, and I was learning how to do marker renderings. And after a few years, I actually got pretty skilled and pretty fast in rendering. And for industrial designers, that's your feathers came out. That was kind of like a real point of pride. And so, do I use these tools, markers now? Anybody? No, right? Not at all. However, coming back to the present, this was something I was doing this past weekend, right? It's visual thinking, and I was forming thoughts into images quickly, really at the speed of my brain. And that was a foundation developed while using tools called markers. Back to 1988, I was in fourth year mechanical engineering design, and I was learning how to design involute gear profiles. Shigley, how many of you know Shigley? Okay, right? So I pretty much did that, front to back, cover to cover. Loved working out the details, took a lot of pride in being able to do this. Gears, flexures, bearings, couplings. So, is this how I go about designing gears now? No, right? Now, there's an automated feature on almost every CAD tool, and there's really specialized ones for doing super special gears. All right, so, new tools, but do I still feel the significance of, sliding contact versus rolling contact, load paths? Absolutely. Now, it's 2025. This is a MECI 2001 design analysis problem. And so back in my day, I did stuff like this too, and I really reveled in doing engineering design analysis. Thousands of hours, literally, analyzing problems without making mistakes. Another point of pride. And today, here's a solution. So in this case, this is the solution for the deformation of those two elastic links. And this was provided by a new tool. So this is a solution courtesy of AI. And Fayez Ahmed, one of my colleagues, did this. And in fact, he says you can solve every 2001 problem using AI right now. And so in the future, will the premium be on solving the problems the way that I did it? I would say probably not. AI can already do this. But I think there's going to be a premium in understanding why these are sensible answers, right? So I can go on, but what's this first point I'm trying to make? Mastery of tools isn't design. And a lot of designers, I think, you can kind of forget that, and that tools change, and they can change pretty quickly. So we need to have mastery with tools, but not be the lover of the tool. And so we need to master whatever makes sense at that point in time for a given problem. So when I think of being a designer, I don't think of tools at all. What do I imagine? I think it's more of a way of thinking or even being. And that seems to endure. To me, being a designer means being hungry to create, hungry to change, hungry to make things better, to make a difference. To never think good enough. I might think I'm out of time, but never just, oh, that's good enough. Feeling free. And I think freedom is related to managing fear, right? So not being afraid to step out of the flock, to make mistakes. Freedom means being determined, uncompromising, and yet at the same time somehow really listening and learning and changing one's mind. Designers get things done, and getting things done with incredible internal excitement. Being excited to work hard, being excited to think hard, being excited to invest in every little detail over and over, to learn from mistakes. I know I can do that better. That doesn't make sense. Designers are feeling, and so being empathetic and understanding. And so, of course, in product design, we have empathy for users, humanity, but also empathy for mechanisms, for the environment, empathy for materials, empathy for manufacturing. You might think, empathy for manufacturing. Well, I once had this very vivid dream that I was aluminum being extruded, kind of like extruding pasta. And I can say it wasn't a totally pleasant experience, but in fact, I really did feel it. So, I'm talking about the notion of understanding what you need to understand so deeply that it becomes part of you. And above all, feeling what it means to really struggle to do something as well as you can. Okay, educating designers, finally. Education that develops fluency in the multi-cogniverse. And so multi-cogniverse, that is, in fact, yes, a made-up word. But what I mean is that curriculum that's thoughtfully designed and crafted to develop fluid thinking, thinking in many ways. So, that could be inductive thinking. Think of user research. It could be deductive thinking, which is much of engineering problem solving. Could be abductive thinking, debugging. Could be synthetic thinking. How many WB folks, former WBers in here? A few? Remember cross products? That's what that is. Lateral thinking, right? Challenging assumptions. Visual thinking. And it can go on and on. But ultimately, thinking is our ultimate design tool, and we need to be good at it. And I think we can develop curriculum that really targets different ways of thinking so that we can become versatile, open thinkers. Second, we need to be versed in the tools of the day, because ultimately design is about doing, it's applied. We need to be good at something if we're a designer, and we use tools. There are enablers. And they tend to be somewhat domain specific, but Tools include things like design methods, right? So help us just go about the process of design. Ways to model and represent things, CAD simulations, for example. Disciplinary knowledge. So in my case, knowledge of manufacturing, mechanics, dynamics, form and color, psychology, product development, etc. are all key tools. Just knowing this stuff is critical for designing. And so most of our education kind of lives in this bullet. And I see it as a very important tool in our toolkit, but there's a lot more. And of course, broader knowledge. And we just need to know lots of stuff and have context for what we're doing and understanding. So some tools are enduring, some change very quickly. And our tool set's going to grow and evolve over our career, but we need to start somewhere, and that starts here in school. And we also need to seed the notion that we're always going to learn the best tool for the job at hand. That's kind of the philosophy. We need to provide relevant experiences, and so we need to provide exemplars, as many as we can, and sort of the saying, practice makes perfect. So this is an example from 2BB. It's a Tubers project. It's a Simon-like toy. It's a 3-week design activity, and it gives students a first experience in breadboarding, microcontrollers, electronics design, designing their own forms and geometric modeling, 3D printing and product assembly, and really just knowing what a carefully detailed product realistically is going to look like. Experience leads to empathy, and that's how we learn to get a feel for things. So sometimes, in mechanical engineering, I hear surprise that a student lacks the intuition to design something, say, on the scale of a high-power transmission. But it's really not that surprising if the only experience is working with a tiny few watt servo, right? So we need to think about the experiences that we're providing, because we want to provide the experiences so we can practice what we want to get good at. And last, curriculum needs to be designed to inspire, and that's really providing the fuel to become a designer. It's a fuel that feeds the hunger to create, freedom from the flock, not settling for good enough, and having the excitement to execute. And I'm going to stop there. So thank you.
Hey everyone, so nice to be here at this really special landmark event, I think, with the increasing web of collaboration that connects all of us together with the Morningside Academy for Design, now institutionalized in the form of these professorships. I think my role, I'm Nicholas Demoncha, by the way, for those of you I haven't yet had the chance to meet. I'm head of the architecture department here at MIT, and it's been my great pleasure to collaborate with John and Marie and others on MAD when it was just an idea, and much more than we have, and much more was in the future to be imagined. It's my role this afternoon to introduce one of my own faculty, but also a very key faculty member for MAD, Skylar Tibbits. And I'm going to do so briefly, but I cannot miss up the opportunity to both be very excited, as I always am, about Skylar, and to maybe embarrass him just a little bit if he's capable of that. But the way I guess I wanted to introduce Skylar to those of you who don't know him or know him, but may not know him from my perspective, which is as a department head. And one of the things that people get very worried about when you have a faculty member who is so important and so productive and such a really good citizen as Skylar is of this department is retention. Which is to say that everyone is always gets rightly concerned around MIT that someone is so amazing that some other institution would like to take all of our mentorship of that person and take them away and use that person's amazing skills for their own effort. And of course, people are entitled to go where they want, but we try and keep people here and make it good for them. And so, at the risk of, showing some of my cards, I always, when I'm with people at the provost level and people whose support that we're seeking for Skylar and his work, I get very visibly nervous about, we really have to keep Skylar here and we really have to make this happen. But in my heart of hearts, of all the people in the world, I actually very rarely worry about Skylar leaving MIT. I don't, often say that publicly, but I do so here because as someone who's only been at MIT now for 5 years and really is still in a state of kind of wonder and joy at so much of what we do here, Skylar is someone who is both so quintessentially representative to me about everything that I find amazing about MIT and really to me represents the spirit of MIT. I literally can't imagine him anywhere else, not that I usually admit that. And so, what this means is, Skylar of course came to MIT a while ago and is very much, has grown with MIT in many regards as a student first, as a research scientist, as a lecturer, as a tenure-track faculty member, as a tenured faculty member now, and key contributor in the department. And this kind of resonance between his nature and MIT's best possibilities has produced a track record that is really astonishing of technological innovations like 4D, fluid-supported printing, aluminum printing, innovations that now help fashion a better world, sometimes metaphorically, printing islands in the Maldives, sometimes literally printing fabrics that have helped us fashion a better curriculum, collaborative studios with Aeroastro and the Media Lab on space architecture, a record from the very beginning of thinking about our design minor and design major and ensuring all of their successes and now a collaborative success in that realm with MAD and now shaping the future of undergraduate curriculum across MIT as a member of key committee looking at the future of the GARs and MIT's undergraduate curriculum overall. I think we are so fortunate to have Skylar at MIT. And just like MIT couldn't exist without him, I don't think MAD could exist without him as a key member of all of the dense and close networks of collaboration that we're celebrating here today. So with that, I give over the stage to one of my most valued colleagues who I'm still going to fight for resources for and threaten departure at every second, but who I'm really, really glad is a colleague here with us today.
Thank you, Nicholas. And maybe I could pretend like I'll go somewhere else, but I'm not going. Yeah, so I'm going to talk today. I'm going to give an example through the design minor major history and why I'm so passionate about that, but also how that I think leads to what design education can do so well here at MIT, unlike many other places, and what I think that we need to embody or are embodying about design education. So we started the design minor in 2016, and that was because we heard from a lot of undergraduate students who started flooding into our architecture studios, and they were wanting to take design studios, but not necessarily wanting to be architects, but wanting to bring design to what other disciplines or departments, degrees that they had, most likely so they could get jobs at Apple and Nike and Google, these, but really thinking about like left brain, right brain, like how do I bring the creative aspects and the most joyful, fun, playful things to my technical education. And so we started this minor. That quickly then boomed and became one of the top minors. I think a surprise to all of us. We thought maybe this would expand, but really it became quite popular. And then we obviously then created a major, and now I think this has become really, in my mind, a model for a different form of design education. So it's not about architectural design or graphic design or fashion design or product design or industrial design. It's about all of those, but really it's about design that blends with every other discipline. And we have many courses from literally how to design, and this grew out of how to make almost anything, and which now is how to grow almost anything, and all sort of a larger library of classes. But we took the same ethos and we were thinking literally, what is design? Like, how do you design? And could we describe that? Because I think traditionally designers are bad at describing what design is, and we're bad at describing how do we design and what are the aspects, and we're quite vague and abstract, and we're like, oh, you'll know it when you know it, or like you have to take however many years of studios before you understand what design is. And so each week we try to talk about like what is a concept, and what is representation, and what is iteration, and what are the aspects of design. But we have lots of other classes like visual communication, objects and interaction, information design, data visualization, interaction and artificial intelligence, creative computation. There's many different classes in design. And you'll notice that it's not a class in graphic design, or it's not a class in product design. It is that, but it's also blending it to other things and blending it to other disciplines, thinking about it creatively, thinking about it technically, thinking about what are the new tools. And it really resonated what you were just talking about with tools and how do we embody this. And so I think this suite of classes is continually growing, evolving, changing. You'll see each one that the titles change as the subject change, the problems change. And so I'm really excited and passionate. Our students build big things, so you'll see these across campus. They build small things. There's probably even smaller things and even bigger things. They build abstract things. They build very applied things. They build digital things, they build physical things, they learn lots of tools, they explore conceptually, they explore technically, they collaborate across campus with the Glass Lab and lots of different research groups, faculty. And so we have all of these different classes, all of these different experiences. But I think we can sum this up by saying that we're trying to create polymath designers. And this we're using this through MAD, and I think it really embodies what we're trying to inspire our students to become. Because it's not just about being traditional designers, and it's not just about being excellent technically, but it's about combining both of those. So bringing the creative with the technical, having deep knowledge and skill sets across diverse fields. And I think about that most as design plus. Like, we want computational designers, biological designers, chemical designers, physicist designers, aeroastro design, anything and design. And we want to really embody that. I think there's two reasons for that. One of them is because we want to bring design to any other discipline. After they leave MIT, how do we take a student and have all of the design expertise, skill sets, all the classes they took, take all of that knowledge, bring it to some other discipline, and help tackle some really important big problem that they wouldn't have been able to do with just their other discipline. That design really allows them to tackle important problems or collaborate across disciplines. But the other side of that is that I think we need to expand the definition in the discipline of design. That it's not just about those silos of design that we're talking about before, that our students should be the ones that create entirely new disciplines of design, like fields of design that we haven't even thought of today, that are so far out of the realm of traditional design spheres that they're really inventing entire new disciplines of design. I think MIT embodies this curiosity and playful experimentation. What we were just hearing, there's so much playfulness, and if you go to any lab across campus or many of the classes, you'll see like play and discovery and joy. And I think that's about combining imagination with execution, that we need to be able to dream, we need to be able to imagine a different future, but we can't just stop there. We can't just say like, I'm going to imagine this other world and that's going to be great and I'll sketch it and render it and move on. But similarly, we can't just think about only execution. We can't just think about incrementally solving problems or just trying to solve things without dreaming what are we imagining? Where is this going? Why are we doing this? Who is this about? We need to think about both ends of the spectrum. And I think that's where this polymath designer mindset brings the kind of creative and the technical, or the imagination and the execution. And lastly, I think what's really important about design at MIT is the combination of design and research. So I think about this in two ways. One is that we should be pushing the envelope of design through research. So we should be expanding the definitions of design, expanding the disciplines of design, changing the way that we design, allowing us to design new ways, thinking about design, changing the methods of design through the latest research across all of MIT. Take the best of what MIT has and change our design world. But you can have the flip side, which is saying, let's discover new things. Let's invent new systems. Let's solve new problems. Let's push research, science, engineering, the technical aspects of research at MIT by bringing a new design lens. Let's ask different questions. Let's imagine different possibilities, and that can amplify design. And I think that's what sets us apart here at MIT, that there's lots of amazing design schools in the world, probably better than us in traditional design silos. And there's a few very, very great research institutions, MIT being one of the best or the best. But I think there's almost none that can combine both, that can really push design and research forward. And by doing that, I think it catalyzes something different. And I think polymath designer, in my mind, is what embodies what our students should be in the future. So I'll leave it there. Thanks so much.
So hello, I'm Kent Larson from the Media Lab, and I'm here to introduce Behnaz Farahi. Behnaz was the result of a long faculty search. The committee was called Transformative Design. I had the pleasure of leading that committee. John was on the committee. We really created quite a challenge for ourselves, because first of all, we didn't define what we meant by design. And purposely, it was very broad, much like what Skylar is talking about. I mean, we accepted applications from filmmakers and choreographers and architects and industrial designers, biodesign, et cetera. So that was pretty daunting to begin with. What are the metrics for selecting someone to offer a position to? We also then put transformative in front of design. So transformative means changing the nature of something or your perception of something. So we were looking for a transformative designer. And we had to do the search twice because we couldn't converge on on the right person. Eventually, I went back to the early days of the Media Lab, Nicholas Negroponte's time, where the qualities that a great Media Lab project had were considered uniqueness, impact, and magic. It's become a little bit of a cliche now, but I found it very helpful, and I think the recent project of Behnaz, Gaze to the Stars, it has all three of those qualities. So reviewing the applications from that perspective caused her to quickly rise to the top. So you look at the project that she did. So uniqueness, uniqueness to me is making unlikely connections. Connections between disciplines, connections between ideas or materials or whatever, but things that don't seem to go together, but in skilled hands fit nicely. Impact, you can see in all of Behnaz's work in that it's transformative and that it changes your perception about something. So that was very powerful. And of course, magic. Magic's one of those things that you just know it when you see it. You can't really define it. It's surprising, or it just takes you to another place. And seeing the big eyes on the dome was pretty magical. So I'm really happy with where we ended up in our search, and I really do believe that Behnaz represents in many ways the future of the Media Lab. So I'm very excited to see where you take your work. So Behnaz Farahi.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Kent, for the wonderful introduction. Maybe I first start by saying that I'm truly honored to be given this chair at the Morningside Academy for Design to amplify design voices across the institution and in campus. I'm one of the newest faculty here, less than a year at MIT. So I'm extremely honored to be accompanied with such a wonderful colleagues for Morningside Academy for Design. At the time when the world faced profound social, environmental, and political challenges, design must do more than just to solve problems. It must ask deeper questions and provoke dialogues and imagine a different type of futures. So maybe I just say a few words about myself. I've trained as an architect. I did my PhD in media arts at the School of Cinematic Arts at USC, and then I taught in the design department in California before I came to join as an assistant professor at MIT Media Lab, where I lead the critical matter research group. So critical matter research group, we design across the scales, from the intimate scales and the world of fashion and architecture, all the way to public art installations. So you might have seen my work in the past, or if not, you definitely maybe came across the giant's eyes on the dome. That's the work that we did last semester, actually this semester with my students. So big shout out to the amazing team of graduate and undergraduate students who have made this possible. Also big shout out to Peter Agus, who is here, who has helped with projection aspects of the work. In this work, we collected just briefly 200 eyes and their stories, not only the shiniest stories of success, but the story of the community at MIT and beyond. The stories that it's not only about success and dreams and hopes, but also loss, failure, grief, and setbacks. So the idea was to gather these stories and use design for telling and empowering the community to share their voices, using architecture of MIT Dome as a vehicle for telling stories back to the city of Boston. And with this introduction, I want to make few remarks about design through making and design education. I'm a big believer in design through making and learning through making. So maybe here I would like to say a few things about, I see the role of designer not just being this master genius who's coming up with the form and then inform the form to the rest of the people. It's not a top-down process, but it's actually a bottom-up process where design could emerge through sort of learning through material processes, through learning through machines and tools. Through working with various tools, we are able to design different objects or environments. And here maybe I share a very personal stories. I moved to US in 2011 to study my second master's degree in architecture, where I brought an idea to a design studio. My first professor, Alvin Huang, he was impressed with the work. He looked at the work, and he was like, well, cool, go build it. And then I found myself in the workshop, but I had no idea how I can build anything. I didn't know how to use any of these tools and machines and technologies. I found myself lost. Through immersing myself to learn various tools and technologies, I found my true identity. Coming from a society, a completely male-dominant society, that even holding a drill in my hand was considered a male activity, I found my true identity through the process of learning through machines and various technologies. So I really hope that the next generations of our makers and designers and innovators, they can first of all find their true identity, and they don't conform to any of the cultural or social norms that define who they should be, but they can define themselves. So through machines and technologies and making and design, not only we can design our own identity, but we can design our future. And I hope that we can cultivate that here at MIT. So, perhaps one thing that I want to say here, during these 7 months, that it's been incredible time for us to set up my research group, Critical Matter Research Lab at the Media Lab, working with a group of 12 students, undergraduate and graduate students, I have to say I'm extremely impressed with the curiosity, with the creative energy that I feel in this community, in Media Lab and beyond. And really hope that we can all together work and collaborate to really push the boundaries of what is possible. And together, we could explore the power of design and technology in our society in a critical way. We don't use just technology to fetishize technology, to create sexy, beautiful, cozy environments or objects, but we use it as a vehicle for asking questions, to provoke conversations, to enhance human perceptions, and hopefully to empower voices that have not been heard. With that, I want to thank you all, and I'm looking forward to our discussions. Thank you.
Thanks so much. Thanks so much, Behnaz. That was amazing. As all of our speakers, thank you so much for those fantastic discussions. I think what we're going to do now is we're going to invite, and also, sorry, thank you to Kent and Nicholas for your wonderful introductions. So we're going to invite David and Skylar and Behnaz to actually sit at the seats, the director's chairs.
Do you care which order?
Yeah, it does not matter. You can sit where you feel like.
This is yours. So.
This is mine because I don't get a bag. You guys get a bag.
Bonus.
And I think what we're going to do is I will maybe do an opening question. And I think given our time, if we do have time, we might open up to questions from the audience. And if not, we will we'll be able to ask questions in the reception outside afterwards, after John is done. So I'm going to sit here. And I have to say, I was so excited to hear all the different themes that came up of sort of interdisciplinarity and new types of design, playfulness, visual thinking. There are all sorts of things. And I was just thinking, like, how can we, at MIT, right, we are, for those that you don't know, our undergrads, 50% are computer science. So we're a heavily technology focused, but yet you have made these fantastic contributions now and in the future around design. What is one thing that you could think of to sort of promote or catalyze design education at MIT based on sort of your experiences, or either your own experiences or maybe things that you've done in your classes and so forth? And I'm just opening it up to anyone who would like to say something.
And what do you mean by catalyze? Like, meaning how do we engage more of our undergraduate students?
Yes.
Yeah. I think there's lots of ways, but one of the ways is to inspire through, like, breaking the mold of the P-set regime. You know, like, there's so much of that we get stuck into, like, problem sets and solutions. Like, there is a solution for this, and, like, lose sight of the playfulness, the wonder, the magic, the exploration, the discovery. You know, and I think that gets beaten out of us from kindergarten on, you know, like, incrementally every year in MIT, like, in much of it, and this is, like, obviously a cliche, but is the embodiment of, like, it's removed. Like, all there is just right answers, and we need to get to these right answers. And somehow I think design allows us to, like, bring that back. And even if that's just to do it on the side, okay, fine, that's the entry point. And then let's talk about how we can play and discover and explore, and bring that to the other side. And maybe it's just a release in the beginning, and then you realize, like, wow, I am really passionate about this, and I am really excited about this. Oh, and this actually contributes to what I'm learning in course 6, you know, or this contributes to something else, and I could bring them together, and wow, that amplifies what I just learned, and now I have a project that brings both together, and oh, my future career could be creative and playful and lucrative and useful, and, like, you know, I think that is just a starting point, but we need to, I think that's one way to get in, is it has to be playful, experimental, magical, surprising, you know.
But normalizing and making an on-ramp for that, making space for that, and that is fantastic. David and Behnaz, if you.
Maybe I absolutely agree. I also love the idea of polymath designers. I think that's definitely exists here. Few nights ago, John pointed out that there was a fashion show here organized by a student. So I went with to just check it out. It was on the 6th floor of the Media Lab. The fashion show was completely organized by students, from the designers to students who modeled it, to students who were doing the music. I was just blown away by that energy. These are students that there's no training of design or fashion design, but there is desire, there is interest, there is passion about something that is not necessarily technological even. It's talking about speaking about the language of design, right? And there is this need. So I'm really, I think, understanding what our community wants, actually, what they found fascinating, and tapping into that energy and helping them to grow. I think that's something that I really hope that I can help and foster and play a role in understanding that as well, and actually being able to really work with that energy, because there's energy there.
You can see it, and sort of how can you foster? That's fantastic.
And there's so many undervalued corners of MIT, like whether it's Solar Club or Miters or Trash and Show or Infinite, or there's a million of these things, but they often are very separated from the degrees and the majors and the minors and the whatever. They're like, oh, we do that on the side, but maybe we can tap into that because that's where their passion is.
And because they're doing it already on their own without intervention. David?
Yeah, just sort of thinking about this notion of engaging people in design, and and sort of, I guess my sense and I think is that people get excited when kind of like they're free to be themselves, and they realize as themselves they can do something kind of amazing, and often things that they didn't think they could do that really make a difference. And so that's why I was sort of thinking, I think like being a designer or thinking like a designer, and the emphasis on it's an approach. It's about how you think. And when students can kind of get that, and then they realize in whatever they care about, whatever discipline, they can apply that with the appropriate tools to kind of make a big difference. And so I think that, if one can light that, I don't know if it's the fire of empowerment, but they realize, I have an identity, and it's going to make a difference through design.
It's a very powerful way. How do you sort of find that piece that you can spark?
The other thing is that everyone learns in a different way, and so let's say the goal is so that everyone learns how to code, right? You take whatever the goal is. Some students might learn that through our traditional classes in Course 6 or problem sets or whatever else, but some students might learn that through a creative project that then they get into it. And so I think there's another version of this. It's like, let's use design as a way for them to enter these other fields in a much more accessible, playful, discovery-oriented, not like optimized right or wrong, method, which doesn't work for everyone. And I'm just speaking.
I think that's wrong,
personally.
by the way.
And personally, that's how I got into computation. Was just like tinkering and playing and like it becoming like sketching. And so I think there's that angle too, that maybe we could not just try to steal them away from Course 6, but we might actually be guiding more to Course 6, who knows, but through another angle, through a different lens on it.
But engaging them inherently. Yeah. Sorry, you're going to say something.
I wanted to say, I 100% agree. I think this interdisciplinary way of thinking or being is so, especially in this era, is more than ever relevant. There is no boundaries between disciplines. One time there were like fashion design and then product design and then interior design. I really believe that these fields are all just design sensibility. It's a big umbrella. As soon as you have sensibility toward design, you can actually apply it to fashion design, to a jewelry design, to interior design, to furniture design. It's really a sensibility. And then if you broaden that scope and bring other fields and other disciplines like artificial intelligence and computer science in general, and mechanical engineering, I think those can also enhance your design sensibility. So there is no point to sort of stick with silos of education as it was once defined. And I think from that perspective, I'm very excited about Morningside Academy for Design because it meant to actually blur more the design with other fields and also blur the boundaries between disciplines. So I see that huge potential there.
I'm glad you said that. That is really the intent. So that's
she didn't get paid to say
you didn't get paid. Well done. And so I'm looking at the time. I wonder if we might have time for one question from the audience, if there is someone. And if not, I have many questions. Oh, the awkward silence. Okay, so I do have another question, which is also a theme I see around. So you mentioned coding, and you mentioned visual thinking, and yours is so highly visual. I feel like students come to MIT and they are so good at math, pretty good at verbal, and then visual we don't know, right? It's just sort of because we don't test for that. There's no SAT for it, right? What are your thoughts on do you think it's important for our students? And then also, how do we encourage that, if it is important, especially for design education?
I think all forms of communication are important, and any one person is going to potentially lean towards one or the other. Be better. Some people might be really great verbally, or some people might be really visually strong. But all of them are important for different reasons.
Yes.
And, I mean, your own research is about like how do these different modes of thinking, and how do they lead to a better outcome, and whether that's a design outcome or whether that's an effective form of pitching your company or product, or effective form of convincing someone, whatever it is, or solving a problem. Like, we need to learn all these tools, and I think we do prioritize traditional forms of communication, verbal and written forms, but I think visual communication is equally as important, if not more important. It depends on who you ask, probably, but I think we need to do more and more of that, and I think MIT has traditionally not been so great at that. You can just look at the poster sessions around campus, or science fairs, or like just even the simple things. I know, John, you're an advocate of like every undergrad student should have a portfolio class, or like be trained to have their own portfolio, and just thinking about how you lay that out and how do we visually communicate the work that you've done, and that probably would lead to better careers and better positions, but also just more effective communication.
That's great. Thank you.
Maybe I just add to that. I mean, I have two sides to this questions, because there is negative parts, which is like, as you said, like, yes, we do still need education for that sort of creative sensibility to make sure everyone visually is also like being sensitive toward the visual communication. At the same time, there is optimistic part of me, which is when we are seeing like large language models as a way of creating, imagining an image, right? Now, instead of like designers like modeling something or drawing something, which is highly visuals, instead of that, we're actually thinking through language. So there is a different modes of even creative process right now is happening in the last few years, which is, I think it's really unfolding new way of thinking about creativity itself. So creative is no longer highly visual in of itself, but actually it's linguistic, or maybe other sensory experiences that can turn to creative outcomes.
It's mediated by language now because of LLMs. That is such a great observation about that.
So I'm sort of here thinking, I'm not sure I'm answering the question. What I'm kind of thinking of is, kind of visual thinking, things like that. But, I'm just thinking about a lot of students that I see coming into MIT, and they come in, a lot of potential, but I don't know if that some don't realize the potential, but I think, but a lot of, you get them in the first year class, and they're kind of afraid of making mistakes. They're here, this is work. What we do is not fun. Life is somewhere else. And I feel like, the big part of it is if we want them to engage in whatever form, I don't care what form of communication is, as long as it's important to them and it's allowing them to do what they want to do. But I think to kind of get to the point that people feel like, freed, empowered, excited to do that, a lot of these things, when you're talking about fun and things, like that, it's working, but it's just breaking down the barriers. So it's like, wow. It's okay to smile while I'm working on something really hard that's super important, and I can laugh about it, like that type of thing.
It's
So
not just solve the problem set is,
Yeah.
intensity.
Or how do we tap into something that they're passionate about, that they're uniquely inspired about, and then it's not like we told them to do this assignment or they need to find the right answer, but they're like, they want to do this anyway.
It needs to resonate with them.
Yeah.
I totally agree. And I realize the time. Sorry, did anyone have any other response? So I was told 6 p.m. I need to do a hard stop, and it looks like it's 6 p.m. But I really wish we could continue this forever. But so thank you very much for this.
Yeah.
Fantastic. And I think now it'll be John.
Well, I do want to make sure anyone who doesn't know these three amazing colleagues and has questions or wants to talk to them, please do seek them out. We're about to have a reception outside, and hopefully the conversation can continue. I do want to say our donor had a great sense of humor, and he thought, wouldn't it be special if we could pick the coolest professors at MIT and just give them the official title of Mad Professor? And so honestly, we're absolutely delighted to be able to launch these new professorships. And so it's really an honor. They get a discretionary fund to support their work and really become part of our broader efforts to scale design and to connect across MIT, because it is something so special here, but it's really dispersed across the whole campus. So please join me in congratulating all three professors, Behnaz, Skylar, and David. You guys are all amazing, and you got just a little glimpse of it tonight. Okay, so now at this point, it's my great honor to introduce 10 new graduate design fellows. And this was the result of a very intense selection process. We had about 20 reviewers. I want to thank all the reviewers who contributed to reading different applications. We keep the application short, and we were really amazed by the response we got. So I'm going to announce each fellow, introduce them, and then invite them to come up to the front. And if you could please stay standing at the front, and we'll take a picture, and then we'll just go straight into the reception. And we're also delighted that we have a few former fellows who are showcasing their work outside in the lobby. So we have a chance to talk to them, see some of their work, and if you're introverted and don't want to talk to other people, you can just engage with that amazing work. So at this point, please join me in congratulating our first fellow, Clay Anderson. Come on up, Clay. Clay's pursuing a dual degree in city planning and real estate development. Clay's research explores how San Antonio, Texas's public transit agency can develop underutilized land to create a sustainable revenue source for its operations by combining urban design with real estate analysis to identify physical design that reduces car dependency along with financial and economic frameworks needed to make such developments happen. Clay was nominated by Professor Brent Ryan from DUSP. And our next fellow, Jack Foreman, please join me in congratulating. Jack, fortunately for Jack, is presenting a paper at a conference in Japan this week with his advisor, Hiroshi Ishii. Jack is a doctoral candidate in the Media Lab's Tangible Interfaces and Center for Bits and Atoms, reimagining textiles as dynamic interfaces for developing large-scale liquid crystal elastomer fibers to undergo reversible contractions when heated. So continuing a theme of textiles running through MAD. Our next new fellow, Claire Gorman-Hanley, we congratulate. Please join me. Claire is also the one of only two who could not be here with us tonight. Claire is busy installing and helping her nominator, Carlo Ratti, curate the Venice Biennale of Architecture that opens next week. So Claire is in Venice putting in very long hours. There are worse places to work. And Claire, as you can see, has a dual master's degree in computer science and also environmental planning in DUSP, whose research and practice focus on the implementation of deep learning-based computer vision methods in built and natural environments with applications in regenerative agriculture, remote sensing, and cultural landscape preservation. Our next MAD fellow, please join me in congratulating Julissa Higgins. Come on up. We finally have company for you, Clay. Julissa is a first-year MBA candidate at MIT Sloan who's developing a design agency and career accelerator that trains women of color from underserved communities for high-paying careers in design. By combining hands-on learning, mentorship, and job placement, the program creates a scalable model and clear path to economic mobility for women who don't have access to traditional career pipelines. Absolutely terrific, and we are very proud that our fellowships go across multiple schools, so it's great to have Julissa representing Sloan. Next we have Rebecca Lynn from EECS. Come on up, Rebecca. Rebecca's a third-year PhD student who's developing Refashion, a system for modular and reconfigurable garments that directly integrate reuse into their design. The system offers a set of building blocks and a digital design tool to support the mixing and matching of those blocks to create modular garments and lower the barrier to entry for custom-fit fashion that can evolve to suit diverse and changing environments, bodies, and tastes, and co-advised by Eric Domain and Zach Lieberman, kind of a dream pair, those two. So really excited about that. Our next new fellow is Oliver. Come on up, Oliver Modo, who's pursuing a Master of Science in Architecture Studies, is a grad student researcher with Self-Assembly Lab with Skylar and Digital Structures Lab with Caitlin Mueller. Oliver's research aims to combine sustainable forestry and low-carbon construction by integrating CT imaging of timber elements with generative AI tools to inform new opportunities and utilization of wood materials, improve sustainability, and AI-optimized timber products for construction. And next we have Rin Ramlan. Rin is a PhD candidate in biological engineering, also working with the Media Lab's Community Biotechnology Initiative, nominated by Chris Voigt and David Kong. And her work reimagines fungi as architects of living responsive materials, engineering mycelium to change color, sense the world around it, and adapt to different environments. To bridge the gap between science and design with these materials, she develops accessible biofabrication tools that empower engineers, designers, and artists to create with biology. And next we have Alex Stewart from Architecture. Alex, for his master's degree, is reimagining how apartment walls and floors can be redesigned to make installation, removal, and personalization of everything from a stove to a bed to a washing machine more user-friendly, allowing residents to have adaptable environments where they can easily customize apartment layout and aesthetic according to needs, fostering autonomy and self-expression. And Alex was nominated by our colleague, Xavi Aguirre. And our next new fellow is Sarah Wilson. Come on up, Sarah. Sarah's a PhD candidate in sustainable design and computation and mechanical engineering, combining AI analytics with iterative user-centered design to create a replicable framework for integrating sustainable practices into everyday products and services. And the computational tools she develops reveal behavioral insights derived from user-generated content to inform targeted design interventions and lower barriers for sustainable behavior. And she was nominated by our own Maria Yang, and we did not hold that against her. And finally, our 10th new MAD Fellow for this year is another graduate student from mechanical engineering. Please come on up, Melody. So Melody Yu is a master's student who's developing smart textiles to interact dynamically with the environment, enhancing user comfort and experience by blending textile design with advanced engineering to study how the structure from individual fibers to complete fabrics affects the ability to manage moisture, combining computer models, simulations, hands-on experiments, designing fabrics to absorb sweat, to keep the body cool and comfortable. And Melody was nominated by our colleague Pekka Hosoi. So I have to say, this is absolutely inspirational every year. but it is also heart-wrenching to be involved in these decisions. But every year, we are just so happy to lift up your work and help support all of you guys. So please join me in congratulating. You're not graduating yet. That's why you get the fellowship. In congratulating our fourth cohort of MAD Design Fellows. Congratulations. And at this point, I think we will probably end up taking a photo maybe outside. And so I think we can head to the reception. But as you pack up and head out, I just want to say thanks again to everyone who made today possible. And I want to advertise we have some amazing events coming up tomorrow, the next day, this week, next week. If you're not on our mailing list at design.mit.edu, please get on the mailing list and please come to more events. But now I think we can do this magical thing where we make the wall behind us evaporate, and right outside we have refreshments, and we get to also interact with some of previous design fellows and see their work. So please do seek out our new fellows, our new chaired professors, and have a great time. And we hope to see you all again at another MAD event soon. Thanks so much.